Una, dos. Okay, with Lakshmi Puri of the United Nations Women. Lakshmi, thank you for being with us. Thank you here in Barcelona in the COP19. Climate change and gender. What is the relationship of one another?
Well, this is something that the consciousness about this has arisen only in the last 4-5 years, although there is such a deep connection between climate change impact, and climate change adaptation and mitigation policies, and the role of women, the impact on women, and how they can contribute to mitigation and adaptation.
Starting with the last one, how can they contribute to the adaptation and mitigation?
So let me begin by impact, because that then takes the cycle back. First of all, climate change manifests itself in 5 key areas. That's the face of climate change. One is the issue of water. The other is the issue of energy, particularly fuel for cooking and also other kinds of energy. Third is food security and livelihood. Food security is the third thing, and agriculture, sustainable agriculture. Fourth is livelihood, how it impacts livelihoods. Fifth is health. Now in all of these areas, women are disproportionately and differentially impacted. So, to begin with, any climate change mitigation or adaptation policies must take that into account, must factor that, and must therefore be sensitive as well as responsive to those needs and interests of women and girls. So that's the first point. The second thing is, you were asking about,
yes,
unless you want to...
educational matches to get to know these things, because people in remote areas do not know these things and do not know this connection. How United Nations get closer to these communities to get them to know, especially especially the women.
Indeed, this is one of the biggest challenges. Awareness raising among communities. We have used community radios. We are working with governments to use their television programs that reach out to the masses, to the people on the ground, to the grassroots. And civil society has been very, very active, and they are our very good partners. There is a global coalition of civil society on gender, and on this it is very active even in every conference, and it is because of them and because of United Nations working together, and particularly UN Women since its creation working together, that member states have now, for the first time since COP16, made sure that all intergovernmental agreements, as well as institutions and negotiating processes, as well as climate finance issues, all of them are made gender sensitive and gender responsive.
Like, for example, something that we are very much concerned about, it's, for example, when cooking in open spaces, which is very lessive to the health, and especially to the climate. We were talking about that with Cristiana Figueres. It's a real immoral thing, but it's sort of some things educational. I'm pretty sure you're aware that in the UN Women.
Are you referring to the cook stoves issue?
Yes, sir.
And the pollution and the health hazard? Absolutely. we can't agree more. As I said, this is about energy. I told you about food security and energy. And this is for food processing that you need to use this fuel. So we are very much advocating for working with the World Cook Stoves Foundation, and there are other coalitions to advance the idea, because there are 2 million women who die every year from this kind of pollution from the cook stove.
2 million?
Yes. And also, they and little girls walk miles, sometimes really miles, to fetch firewood.
Which is dangerous.
Which is not only dangerous to their health, but sometimes they face violence, and sometimes they are, of course, they lose all other opportunities of education and income generation. So this is something, clean cook stoves, accessible, affordable and clean, to families around the world in developing countries is a priority, and is both a contribution to reducing emissions but also strengthening gender equality and women's empowerment.
What is for the United Nations the way that UN Women, UNFCCC, and the Secretariat, the General Secretariat of the United Nations work together towards each COP each year?
Yes.
Since 2016.
Yes.
Okay, I mean since COP 16, 2010.
Yes,
Sorry.
yes. Well, we have been, as I said, it's been a coalition of a number of actors. Of course, Christiana Figueres herself is a great champion and a supporter and a partner for UN Women and for the UN system as a leader, because she is animating this whole UNFCCC process. So she can advise us, she can support, provide intellectual leadership as required. So we are very happy and we are very happy that she is such an engaged champion of this issue. And the gender days you were asking about is partly the fact that she has been working to take this forward. We also have the Global Coalition of Civil Society, which is and women's organizations, which is very strongly pushing for this. We also have there is a troika of member states who are the former chair, present chair, forthcoming chair. We work with the troika, and we also have the Mary Robinson Foundation, other partners like that who are working for what they call and what we also call climate and gender justice together.
I like that. I love that. Do you have projects specifically in Mexico?
Well, we are working with the government of Mexico in the area of gender equality and women's empowerment, particularly in the context of economic empowerment, in ending violence against women, political participation, but also in the context of climate change. And here, of course, in the context of the negotiations, Mexico is a very important leader in this area, on both areas, for climate justice, for gender justice. So we are very much counting on Mexico to make sure that two things happen. One, the decision that has been taken, called the Gender Miracle decision, which was taken last year. Also, how gender has been included in climate finance, in the allocation, in the consideration of climate finance, giving climate finance to support gender projects or gender climate finance projects, all of that, as well as the decision that was taken last year in COP 18 that all the Kyoto Protocol and other governing bodies of the UNFCCC